Former Met murder detective Peter Kirkham has examined monster Levi Bellfield's claim that he bludgeoned Lynn and Megan Russell to death. Michael Stone is currently serving 3 life sentences for killing mum Lynn and her 6-year-old daughter, who were found in a lane to death in Chillenden, Kent, in 1996. Stone, 61, was also found guilty of trying to murder Megan's sister Josie, then 9, but claims he is innocent. His solicitor says he has a statement by Bellfield, 53, describing how he carried out the double murder. He says he was wearing washing-up gloves and holding a hammer as he stopped the family on a lane. He claims his intention was to just attack Lynn, but changed his mind on hearing screams. He claims he threw the hammer in the river near Walton-on-Thames, Surrey. But is Bellfield, serving 2 whole-life orders for the murders of Millie Dowler, Marsha McDonnell and Amelie Delagrange, telling the truth or playing a sick game? Here, ex-Det Chief Inspy Kirkham provides his analysis, and verdict. This will be the starting point for any potential review and will drive any further action considered necessary. Detectives would look at exactly what the statement contains and compare it with what is already in the public domain. As it runs for 4 pages, it sounds like it will contain a lot of detail. Bellfield will also know that the police will be expecting detail if it is to be believed. The murders of Lynn and Megan Russell, and the almost fatal attack on Josie, has received a huge amount of publicity over the last 25 years. The police would look for anything significant in the statement which is not already in the public domain. I suspect there are very few facts left in this category, given the number of legal processes through which the case has passed and the amount of media interest and coverage. If there are any significant differences between Bellfield's account and what is objectively known already, then the statement will be seriously undermined. Whether or not there is any new information in the statement, the credibility of Bellfield will be an important factor. If, as I suspect, there is little or new verifiable information in the statement, this aspect will be of central importance. The police would ask, is Bellfield a reliable source? In this case, we know he has a track record of making unreliable claims. In 2017 he denied having anything to do with the Russell murders. He appears to like playing mind games with the police. The senior investigating officer who convicted him of the murders for which he is serving a whole life sentence, DCI Colin Sutton, below, has said as much in the past. This may well just be Bellfield's latest attempt to confuse, embarrass or undermine the police. They will be extremely cynical and will take a considerable amount of convincing that his claim is true and reliable. Offenders tend to start off with more minor offenses and work up to more serious ones. This also applies to the modus operandi in that they would tend to start with simpler and less dramatic methods and, over time, build to more complex methods. Unusually, Bellfield is known to have committed a number of very violent murders and other attacks in the first few years of this century. Each of the offences involved Bellfield attacking a lone female in an urban environment, so the circumstances of the Russell murders are very different. His potential involvement in these murders has been known for some time and the police have already looked at it and found no evidence linking him to them. The flip side of assessment of Bellfield's admissions is looking at the strength of the case against any other suspects, in this case, Michael Stone. The case against him is not the strongest. It originally involved a number of prisoners saying he had made admissions and at least 2 of them have now been shown to have been mistaken or lying. The appeal authorities are aware of this, however, and his conviction stands despite that being the case. There is very little actual, direct evidence against him, but that said, the absence of direct evidence is not evidence that he was not responsible. The circumstances of the Russell murders is such that an experienced investigator would not expect to find much, if any, direct evidence. It did not take place in an area where CCTV footage might be expected. Bellfield is seeking to persuade us he is responsible for the murders for which Stone has been convicted. This means he will have to produce a very convincing admission to convince the police, the courts or anyone else that it is true and Stone is therefore innocent, as well as the credibility of Bellfield himself. The police will have to look carefully at the credibility of the others involved in the case. Of central relevance in this regard is Bellfield's ex-wife, who is definitely not someone who might be expected to be supportive of him. She has said that she was with Bellfield in the West London area on the day of the Russell murders, more than 100 miles away in Kent. She has a good reason to remember the exact day as it was her birthday, and this helps to underpin her recollection. She is adamant that Bellfield had no opportunity to murder the Russells that day. Her account is about as credible and reliable as these things get. Stone's lawyers have claimed that there is a witness who says they saw Bellfield in the area of the attack on the Russells. This witness has come forward long after the events, and her recognition of Bellfield is based on pictures of him she has seen in the papers and on TV. Eyewitness identification is well known to be problematic as evidence. As we do not know exactly what is in the statement produced by Bellfield, it is impossible to make a hard and fast decision as to whether it is likely to be reliable and true. It is, however, possible for me to give an informed professional opinion as to the likelihood of that turning out to be the case. And, in short, I have little doubt that it will turn out to be false. Most, if not all, of the actual checkable facts in the statement will undoubtedly turn out to be already in the public domain thanks to the acres of coverage that the murder of the Russells has received over the 20-odd years since it happened. Bellfield has plenty of time on his hands to research the case in great detail and find even the more obscure facts, which have received little focus. He is also capable of constructing a convincing false narrative from the facts he has available and, as a murderer himself, he is well placed to come up with convincing things to fill any gaps. He is known to lie to the police and run them around the houses. I very much suspect he doesn't like the police at all, and he might therefore be motivated to produce a false account simply to get at them. He is also known to play sick games with investigators which, intentionally or otherwise, have the effect of torturing the families of victims. It would be extremely unusual for the same offender to have committed the Russell murders as a first fatal attack, several years before falling back to a far simpler MO which he then used consistently. It would also be very unusual for him to have committed the murders so far away from the area of West London in which he feels confident and safe only to return there for his subsequent offending. The conviction of Stone is not based on the strongest of evidence, but it has been subject to long and thorough review. 2 juries were satisfied of his guilt having heard the evidence. Because of the nature of the evidence against Stone, I am not giving too much weight to the fact Stone has been convicted when it comes to assessing the admissions by Bellfield. And, of course, even if Stone were innocent, it would not mean that Bellfield is telling the truth. I do not believe that Bellfield's admissions are convincing. On the basis of what we know right now, he has a track record of saying things and then retracting them, and he is known to like playing mind games with the police. There are several red flags waving over his admissions. Taken together they make me believe the statement is just the latest in a long line of lies from him. Although I am pretty certain that Bellfield is very likely to have committed other serious offenses for which he has not been prosecuted or convicted, I do not think that the 1996 murders of Lynn and Megan Russell are amongst them.